Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I am Aaron, and this is the Inclusive Dad podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in exploring ways we can create a more inclusive world together. You are important, you matter, and you can make a difference. Today, my guest is Lisa Woodruff. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Why don't you just start us off by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've always lived in Ohio. Grew up in the Akron-Cleveland area. I live in Cincinnati now. I'm the oldest of two kids, went to all different kinds of school, public school, Catholic school. My kids have also gone to all kinds of schools, Montessori school, Catholic school, private school, homeschool, and a learning disability school. I'm a teacher by trade. I have an early childhood degree, and I also have elementary education. When I got my first job, I taught at-risk youth in preschool and also children that had not qualified for IEPs yet, but they were on 504s. So I taught them alternatively and pulled them out of the classroom. And then ultimately, my kids also ended up with IEPs, and I supported them as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's start off with what, if you had to define inclusion, what would your definition be?
Yeah, I believe that there's more that unites us than divides us, and that we are all individuals, but we're working in a collective. And I've always thought that. So I recently, like a couple of years ago, was diagnosed with ADHD in my 50s. So, and I remember distinctly that my mom had these, they were called happy apple pills. They were these vitamins that I had to take as a child for hyperactivity. And I was always asking her questions. And she said, "What are you doing? Writing a book?" And now I've written four. So clearly I was a little hyper as a kid. And I was never really good at getting good grades. Like, I didn't get good grades because I had dyslexia and now I guess ADHD. But so I thought I wasn't smart. But I think inclusion is really being able to see different points of view. Like, I've always been able to analyze and bring things like from business into school or from school into households and make those assimilations that other people maybe can't. And so inclusion to me is just knowing that we all are different, have different perspectives, and it's a really long answer, different points of view, and together we make a more complete world.
Yeah, I love that definition. Thank you so much. Do you want to talk a little bit about your business and your 365 organize and and like what you do as your business?
Sure. So as a kid, I babysat like it was my job, my full-time job. Then I got a teaching degree. Then I was a stay-at-home mom for a decade, which I loved. That's all I ever wanted to be, was a stay-at-home mom. And then in my 40s, I set out to create some kind of a career for myself that I could have flexibility of time and also just really pour all of my uniqueness into and create something out of nothing, which was Organized 365. I had no idea what it would be. I just knew it would be talking about organization. And along the way, what I realized is that we in households don't have the same systems and structures and supports that we do in school and work settings. And a lot of time women like me get diagnosed with ADHD in midlife, one, because we're all becoming more ADHD as we age, but also because the structures of our school, our kids being in school or us being in a formal workplace go away. And we don't have a lot of structure and support. And people who are diagnosed with ADHD do better if they often when they have some external support. So as I started Organize 365, I started by organizing people's homes in Cincinnati, physically organizing all of their stuff. And then I realized, whoa, there's a lot of paper. So I created the paper solution. I figured out how we organize all the information management related to households like you would in a school or in a business. And then I was like, there's a lot more about business that's related to a household. So that was like my next top. Like as I grew the company, I was like, why are there all these supports for me growing in the company, but I don't have these in my household? And how can I add those into the household? And now I've just finished my PhD in applied psychology, and now I'm applying academic principles and scientific rigor to researching how to operationally define the work that we do at home, and then to provide structures and support like we would in school or work for household managers.
That's great. So in your experience, I mean, I have a daughter, so I have a daughter, Cecilia, she's 23. She has been diagnosed with cerebral palsy and epilepsy. And I'm divorced now, but was married, but it was all new to me. Like I didn't know anything about disability, but I mean, if you've had kids, like you said, on IEPs, like, I mean, you have we have county people coming in when she's young. We have all that system. She's, on Social Security. We have that system. We have, Medicaid. We have, all this paperwork and stuff. Do you have any clients who are maybe in that situation, like a caregiver of somebody with a disability, and how's your stuff help them?
Yeah, so I think if we take caregiving as a whole and we kind of break it into childcare, elder care, special needs care, and self care, and just start thinking about that, this is what I've come to at the end of my PhD, this idea that we as humans need care. And sometimes that care is predictable, as in you're going to need to care for a child or the state will take the child away. Or if you don't have children, which a lot of people don't have children, at some point in your life, you're like, oh, golly gee, those parents need care. And that falls on me as well. So we have these times in our life where we care for people that are older or younger than us. And we kind of know what that means. Like we need to provide for their health and their well-being and make sure they're fed and that they have clothing. But it's more than that. We also need to provide for their educational, relational needs and their emotional development. So that's understood. We kind of understand childcare and elder care. Care of children with special needs is more intense care, in my observation. The amount of care is more than in, let's say, a neurotypically developing child, and the independence level is different. So, how independent they are, in which areas they're independent may be different, and that may extend, like you said, into adulthood. So now you have, once they turn 19, a child doesn't magically become not disabled. And so now you're not only navigating what the child's needs are, the young adult's needs are, but how does that work in a adult system? But I also want to talk about self-care. So I always thought self-care was like a bubble bath, a spa day, like pampering. But my definition of self-care is now that we care for ourselves when we are adults, when we are able. So from 18 to 88, if you're an able-bodied person, you are responsible for your own care. And that means not only your food and bathing and clothing and all of that, but also your social, emotional, relational developments as well. And so when we think about caring for a child who has special needs, which is going to have more needs than, let's say, a typical child, if there's even such a thing, and or that lack of independence is going to go into adulthood, this is where the systems for households need to be more defined and systematic. So when you're a man running your household, you're responsible for the heating and the food and all those things you have to do in your household. If your child is able to live in independent housing, then you'll need to manage a lot of that intellectual and invisible work related to that separate household. So if you could put it on the same system, that is great. Or if your child eventually will qualify for being in a government program or a group home, there's still things that you're going to need to do for that group home. Like you're still going to provide for their clothing, you're still going to provide for emotional and recreational care, even if part of that group home is already taking care of the toiletries and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, yeah, so I have two children. My son, he's a year older, so he has his house, he has his life, and my interaction with taking care of him is zero. But yeah, my daughter needs help with all tasks of, daily living tasks. So yeah, it's just a much more intense. Yeah, and I found she comes here a couple days a week, and like having like a consistent structure of how we
Yeah.
function. I mean, it helps me, and it also, helps her, I think, because she knows like what to expect, and this is how we handle things and that kind of thing. So I definitely agree, like the structure definitely helps both me as an her caregiver and her dad, and her as coming over.
Yeah, and one thing I would add to that is because so my daughter and my grandchildren live with my husband and I, so we're all in one household still. She is independently raising her children in like the apartment we made in the basement. But there are household things that come together, and my older grandchild is 4, and whenever I'm in the house, he knows Lovey's in the house, so he's following me all over the place. And so if you are in a ongoing care relationship with family members that are beyond what you thought they would be. You have kids, you're like, oh, maybe when they're 18, they'll be out on their own. Yeah, whatever. By the way, you should just move that to 25 for all kids. But once you get to this point where you're like, oh, this is going to be a lifelong care situation, or let's say like your mother-in-law falls and breaks a hip, like, okay, for 6 months, I'm going to have to care for my mother-in-law. Once you realize you're in one of these longer care relationships, One of the things that has helped me, and you didn't really ask, but one of the things that has helped me is to divide the tasks that I'm doing based on how much cognition I need to do. So, what I mean by that is I have to do the laundry, I have to put away the groceries, I have to do cooking. All of that will happen when I'm taking care of my grandchild. But when I want to balance the budget or when I want to read a book or I want to do something like that, that'll happen when he is either at school or in bed so that I'm not trying to do something cognitively taxing and he comes up and wants me to push him on a swing and then I get angry. So I kind of try to match the tasks that I know I have to get done anyway into my caregiving, that is so that I'm more emotionally and cognitively available.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for sure. I read a little bit of your book, the copy you sent over, and you start out with a question like, what do you want for your future self?
Yeah.
And it says, no matter how old you are, I want you to look around your life and ask yourself, is this how I want to live? Am I spending my days doing things that bring me joy and make me feel good? And I
Mhm.
really like that because I mean, let's see, 40, just turned 49. So I mean, most of my life, I haven't asked myself those questions until like the last couple of years, and I realize I'm working a lot, and I don't have a lot of free time in my schedule. Like if I want today, just go fishing or just be outside or something, I don't have that time built in. So I've been intentionally like trying to have more open space in my schedule where I can for 15 minutes grab my pole out of the van and stop there and fish for a few minutes. So I mean, it's those are great questions. I mean, I from your experience, do a lot of people ask themselves those questions, or is that stuff we just kinda don't ask ourselves?
Thank you. That's from my new book, Escaping Quicksand. And no, I don't think we ask ourselves those questions because we feel like it's selfish, especially when we are in a caregiving situation, like when you're in parenting or you're elder caregiving, or especially when you have a child or an adult child whose needs you perceive are going to be greater than your own. And you mentioned that you were divorced. 80% of parents with children with special needs get divorced. I mean, it's my husband and I are like, "Yay, we beat the odds." We stayed married. It's such a high percentage because it's like being in a pressure cooker and there is no end in sight. Your daughter is not going to her disabilities aren't going to go away. So, when you know that and you say, "Okay, well, but her needs are so much bigger than mine and she can't care for herself, so I must care for her." What I would propose is with this new definition of adult self-care, I say that you must take care of yourself, Erin, because if you don't, then who is going to take care of her? And ultimately, if we don't take care of ourselves and like we don't exercise, and I'm not saying like 3 hours a day at the gym or anything, but you don't get some movement in, you're only eating fast food, like you're burning the candle at both ends because you just want to do so much more, you're not getting good sleep. Ultimately, that's going to affect your health. And if you're not healthy and you're not well, then how are you possibly going to care for her? And I think that our emotional, mental, spiritual, recreational wellness also comes into play. So I love, just 15 minutes of fishing. And then also you mentioned that you have your daughter a couple of days of the week, assuming that a couple of days a week that you don't. There are many times in my lives where I've had an A-B schedule. So like schedule A is the kids are in preschool or school or whatever they're doing. So I could do these things while they're in school. And schedule B is the kids are home with me. Or schedule A is I'm working, schedule B is the weekend. So you could have schedule A when you have your daughter, schedule B when you don't have your daughter. And so, she may want to go fishing too, honestly. You could probably just take her with you. I think we start to think like we can't do things like that. But also, how do you um reduce the amount that you're working on the days that you don't have her so there is built-in time for you? Even if it's just a couple of hours. Every week, these couple of hours are dedicated to you only for your wellness and self-care so that you are a better dad.
Yeah, that makes sense, and she is in the process of getting her like, fishing license, so she wants to go fishing with me now, which is
Yeah,
a new thing, so
perfect.
we will be doing that too. Yeah.
Great.
It's interesting because like, the fishing thing, like, some days I wanna just, like, sit there and I don't even really care if I fish, I just wanna be, like, alone and just kinda
Yes.
decompress and just feel the sun and, feel the wind. Other days, though, I wanna catch a lot of fish or, like, now I wanna go with her, so it's just kinda depends on the mood too, like, what kind of fishing do I wanna do today?
Yeah, and I don't think that we really, at least I haven't until recently, given myself permission to say, I just want to be alone. Especially as an extrovert and, like running the company, running the family, running all these things. And my husband will say, but you're doing everything that you want to do. And I'm like, yes. And I just want some alone. Like, I think everybody wants some alone time to just be still with your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for me, if I'm around a lot of people, like after that, I need to like be away from people for a little bit just to kind of
Mhm.
get the energy out and just decompress. So,
Mhm.
like, I haven't realized that till recently either. So it's been interesting, just kind of recognizing that and be like, okay, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. I don't need to be around somebody all the time. I don't tell my partner like I need to go for a walk. Or I need to go fishing for a couple hours, and just
Mhm.
that's what I need. And yeah, like you said, if when you're kind of in that caregiver role, I'm not used to like expressing like what do I need, and 'cause I don't, it's just feel bad. So yeah, I'm getting better at it finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit more about your book, like why you wrote it or what prompted you to write it?
Sure. So, this most recent book, Escaping Quicksand 10 Steps to Overcome the Overwhelm of Modern Home Life, was written in my 50s as I'm finishing my PhD when I really realized that we don't have a good definition of self care. And as adults, the older that we get, I mean, I just keep thinking that eventually I'm going to get this time just for me to do whatever I want. And I'm realizing that's probably never going to happen. So, I'm going to have to kind of start carving out and taking that time. I looked back on my 40s, and in my 40s, I went from depressed and overweight, and we were in the most debt we'd ever been in. Like, I really didn't have a good direction on what the future of my life would be when I was turning 40, to now with a PhD, a thriving business, living with my grandchildren and really loving life. I know how I did that physically, how I organized my house and all of those things that you outwardly see. But what were the mental mindset shifts that I made internally? Like, what are the beliefs that I now have that I didn't have when I was 40? And how did those actually really support the woman that I am today? I think a lot of times we look at to productivity experts or organizing experts as in, like, how did you fold the socks in the underwear drawer? Or what is the cadence with which you clean out the pantry? And those things are important, but they aren't as important as the why and the who you are as you are becoming a more organized and productive person. So, like, one of those things, which I can hear you doing as well, is becoming a woman of excellence versus a perfectionist. In my 30s, I was trying to do everything perfectly. And in my 40s, I was like, if I just do it faster, it'll be better. And now I realize that there is no such thing as perfect. I mentioned I had dyslexia, or I have dyslexia and ADHD. So I couldn't even get A's and B's. I always had a floating C. So I knew I wasn't like a straight A student ever. So I knew I wasn't a perfectionist, and I felt bad about that. Like, I was less than everyone else. So I judged other people. I was like, well, perfection isn't a thing. Like, you may think you're perfect, but you're not, because it's not a thing. And I finally realized, like, it wasn't really about perfection. It was about effort. And I always put forth the best effort that I have. Like, I'm always excellent in my effort. I'm excellent in like providing for my children the best I know at that time. The hindsight's always 2020. And once I started really stop judging others and stop expecting or looking at perfection and really striving more for excellence, I started giving myself and others around me grace. And I can even hear that in your responses, that you're starting to see, oh, maybe I could do this differently, and not being so rigid and perfectionistic and what this should look like. And it's so freeing, isn't it? To really just think about, like, oh my gosh, I could actually like maybe make some changes, and I get to decide for myself.
Yeah, for sure. Like you picked up on the perfectionist piece. I kind of realized that a couple of years ago too. Like I started recognizing like I'd start doing something, and then if as soon as I didn't do it like quote unquote perfect or how I had started out, then I just stopped doing it. So I'm like, okay, what's
Yeah.
going on here? Like
Yeah.
like I would do something, and if I started like a morning routine or did like devotions, then I missed a day, and I'm like, well, I just missed a day, so now I don't have 47 days straight, so I might as well just
Yeah.
quit. So yeah, I started recognizing that stuff. So yeah, giving myself more grace. I'm like,
Mhm.
why is that a thing? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's interesting how you start realizing stuff you're doing. It's like, wow, if I would have known this like 30 years ago, this would been awesome.
Mhm. Yeah, and I
But
don't know if
again,
we
give yourself
can.
some grace. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when you realize that you're in a caregiving situation in perpetuity, you're like, okay, well, I can sacrifice myself, or I can sacrifice these things, or I could be like, all right, I'm not going to do this for 18 or 25 years. But if it's going to be the rest of my life, we've got to start making some more modifications and concessions, and just building a different schedule and building a different future.
Yeah, for sure. And this is going to sound, I don't know, got this question in my head. We'll see how it sounds when I try to say it. So, my girlfriend calls me like willy nilly, like she's a list person, like needs to be organized, like she moved. from a different town, when we're moving in together, and she's got the boxes, everything's labeled, like everything in the box is labeled. Like me, when I moved from my apartment to our where we were gonna live together, I threw all my clothes in like trash bags and just got boxes, threw everything in it, and then just unloaded it. So, do you have any like tips for somebody who's considers himself willy-nilly, like how to try to be more organized?
I love the willy-nilly. I think it's a uniqueness, you know what I mean? Like, some people are better at math, some people are better at reading, some people are more analytical, some people are more go with the flow. So I don't think there is a right or wrong as far as, like, everyone needs to be more listy and not willy-nilly, and I think that opposites attract, so you're usually gonna have a yin and a yang in the situation. Um, making lists and creating order out of nothing by writing it down reduces cognitive load because you're no longer thinking about things. So you can look at the list and you can manipulate it. I talk about that a lot in my work. And women specifically have a lot of invisible family load, according to academic literature, that there's more invisible family load for women than there is for men. And so we're wrestling with a lot of tasks that need to be done and monitoring the environment and multitasking. I know they say it's not a thing. I don't believe it. I think it is a thing. So I think men and women are different. And I think there are men that are very listy, and there are women that are like, I'm going to move stuff in a trash bag. So it's not like just a male female thing. But I think as long as the listy isn't so much that it's rigid and we can't get anything done because it wasn't put on the list first, and as long as your clothes are making it into the hamper and not on the floor next to the hamper, I think we can live with it. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you can get a little bit more organized and maybe she can relax a little bit when you guys are doing social things after the lists have already been planned and done.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, as you're talking about the list, like that doesn't make sense to me because yeah, since I don't write down lists, there is a lot of like, yeah, thinking about over and over again what I need to get done.
Yes.
And now that I've kind of thought about the perfectionist piece, maybe that was kind of part of it is like I write it down and then I wouldn't get it done. So I was yeah. So I think I might try to revisit that a little bit and see how it works because I don't think I've done it since I kind of realized the perfectionist part.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of like in spousal relationships, which I am not an expert on. I normally don't even mention it at all.
Hmm.
But one of the things that I would say is that, you mentioned that you've been divorced and now you're in a new relationship. So I'm sure there's, habits that or hurts that happened in the first relationship that now maybe you're just like, well, I just don't do that, so you can't judge me because I just don't do that thing. So one of the things I do in making a list is I don't make a long list. I use index cards, or you could just use little notepads. And anytime I need to remember something, I write it down because my brain is mush and I have other things I'd rather be thinking about. So as you think about something, just write it down. And by writing it down, it removes it from your cognitive load and allows you to continue thinking about whatever you were already thinking about and yet still remember the task. I like writing them on individual index cards because when it's on a list, it's almost like, oh, I have to get all this done. And if I don't get it done, I have to rewrite it. And every time I rewrite it, that's just showing that I haven't gotten this thing done yet. Whereas if it's a bunch of different index cards and you review the index cards every week, then you're like, okay, well, these 3 or 4 things have to get done by next week. So I'm going to pull those index cards out and these other 95 can just wait, I guess, forever because they're ideas I had that I wrote down, but I may never even do them. So it becomes every individual task instead of like this long list of things you have to get done before you're allowed to go fishing again.
That's interesting. So you put each different task on its own index card?
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, I kind of like that actually.
And then
Yeah.
similar, so when you write them down on index cards, a lot of them can just wait. Some of them are work related tasks. Some of them are home related tasks. Some are things that you want to remember to just tell, your girlfriend next time you see her. And then once you see her, you can toss that. Some are things you might actually end up giving your daughter, like, hey, I need you to go whatever it is. Like, I need you to go clean up your room or something. You just hand her the index card, but it's a way for you to not try to keep holding it in your head. Like, I had this one index card for my son. He missed his doctor's appointment, so I had to pay the $50 fee. And then he said, I'll make a new appointment. Okay, for 7 days, I kept saying, make the new appointment, make the new appointment. So I was going through all my things and I had it right next to my phone. And every time I looked over and saw it, I would text him. I'm still looking at this index card. So I started texting him like every 5 minutes. So he finally made the appointment. But that's what it's like when if he doesn't make the appointment, we're not going to have the doctor's appointment, which means they're not going to refill the medicine, which means I'm going to get a call at 11 o'clock at night because he's an adult living on his own. I'm out of meds. Well, what am I? I'm not a pharmacist. I can't do anything for you when we don't have the prescription and it's 11 o'clock at night, like on a Saturday. Now we're just out of meds until Monday. You know what I mean? So it's important. So I'm constantly remembering it and it's on this index card, but it's not my action. It's his action. So that's just
Yeah.
circling up there in my head.
Yep. Yeah, that is true because like, and especially with my daughter, if it's stuff like, we have doctor appointments and then the day comes, she doesn't want to go, and then it's like my brain's like I put a lot of weight on it because like you go down the path of like, oh, if you don't go to the neurology
Yep.
appointment, we don't get your seizure meds refilled, and
Right.
that's going to mean you're going to have seizures. So I mean, it's just there's a lot more weight put on some of the tests too in that situation because it's like we have to do this for this, and she doesn't sometimes it seems like she doesn't understand like all the downstream consequences or things that are attached to it. So yeah. Yeah, I like the index card. I'll have to try that. I feel like that'd be better for me than just having a huge list that I spent the time on and then I don't finish it and then yeah. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Great.
I learned something today. Now I'm already home, I guess.
So, you mentioned doctor's appointments. So when my kids were 4 and 5 years old, I had a meltdown. I literally lost my mind. I started screaming in the kitchen, and my husband wisely took the children, went to the park, and I didn't see him for hours. I don't even know where he went for the day, but he left. And I was like, okay, Lisa, you've got to get it together. And I went up and I put myself in timeout on my bed, and I was like, why am I so unhinged? Like, what is the matter with me? And so I started looking at my calendar my planner, my physical planner, this is 2005, and figure out like where had my time been going. And I saw so many school and doctor's appointments for these two kids that were 4 and 5. So I started counting. And it was 110. I'd been to 110 doctor and school appointments in the last 365 days. Like that is an obscene amount of doctors. And all of those have, every single one is a minimum 3 hours. You've got to get ready. You've got to go there. You've got to sit for it and you've got to come back. Like any doctor's appointment is going to be 3 hours round trip. And then you've got to prepare for those meetings and follow up from those meetings. So when you say that about your daughter, I learned to, like behavioral modification, I guess, but I learned that one of my kids needed to know in advance what we were going to do. And the other person needed to know, like, we're getting in the car. Where are we going? I'll tell you when we get in the car. like no information till we're already in the car, and just kind of creating a story about that. And so she really doesn't like to go to those appointments. If there's something she really loves doing, if we always do that after the appointments, then maybe that would make going to the appointments easier and she could look forward to the thing that's after the appointments, like getting ice cream or whatever it is for her.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like for her, the longer in advance you like tell her stuff, it seems like it doesn't go. She has more time to think and then kind of gets in her
Right.
head. But yeah.
Anxious.
Well, and even, I mean, I'm the thing that she usually likes to go to the appointment. She likes me coming with, and
Oh,
she's got a
that's
song I
great.
sing, and I have to like play music on a speaker and do just crazy. Like the crazier I act, like the better stuff goes. So it's just, but that means I have to have enough, I have to have enough sleep, have the
Energy.
energy and that kind
Yep.
of stuff. So when you're like, yeah, the same thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. In your new book, I was reading also again Escaping Quicksand. You talked a little bit about the multitasking. I was going to bring that up because in my day job, I've been doing some like DBT stuff where they talk about one mindfully and like how multitasking isn't a thing. And you kind of alluded to it. Do you want to give your view on multitasking?
Yeah. So I think like when I'm cognitively writing my dissertation, I can't also be thinking about the podcast I'm going to record. So yeah, that's not a thing. And there is the true time lost in task switching. So like you're going to make a phone call to a doctor and then you're going to write a paper and then you're going to record a podcast. Yes, there's going to be 23 minutes minimum task switching between those tasks. However, the one time where I think we call it multitasking, and I don't think it actually is when, and there's the meme where you see a woman, and it's a woman, sorry, but it's a woman, and she's gonna, do her housework. So she starts the dishes and then she does a load of laundry and then she's picking up the room. And the next thing you know, she's in another room doing whatever. Yes, that is true. It looks like we're chickens with our head cut off running through the house when we are cleaning up the house. But if you look at it differently, um, there are a lot of things we do to keep house: laundry, dishes, cleaning, picking up, reordering things, getting the groceries in, restocking the refrigerator. To me, that is a beautiful dance. Like if you looked at it from the start to the finish, and it usually takes me like 3 hours, which I don't know, 3, 4 hours. That's how long it always takes. I start and it looks like I'm all over the house and I'm just doing all these random things. But at the very end, I'm wiping off the counter, I'm emptying the dishwasher, I'm putting the last load in the laundry, and the stock is restocked. So I think there are a lot of tasks that we do that are related, that as you can start to orchestrate your own basically musical or play that you do, that these are not cognitively heavy tasks. And if you do them in a certain order, you can really reduce the amount of time it takes to do them. And you don't have as much task switching. I have no research to back this up, by the way. This is just like my observation.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense to me because, like you said, like you throw the laundry in, so I mean, you just stand there and watch it for the whole time
Right.
because that makes no
Exactly.
sense. So yeah, I mean,
Right.
I understand what you're saying. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting though because yeah, they're like so much you do one thing at a time, which then when I'm like started thinking about, it, I'm like I don't do anything one thing at a time. Like I do dishes
Right.
and I'm listening to music. I drive, I'm listening to music. There's like hardly no times when I do like one thing just by itself. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like that differentiation on like the cognitives. If it's yeah, if it's just stuff where it's you don't have to think and you can just, start the coffee, go to the bathroom, or you talk about waiting for your shower to warm up, I think, and you brush your
Yeah.
teeth then. I mean, yeah, then you're done with it. It's yeah. I mean, I don't know how you mind I guess you can mindfully like listen to the water as it's going to warm up, but yeah.
Who's got time for that, Aaron? We don't have time for that. Move on.
No, yeah, I understand. Yeah, I just saw that and I was like, "Oh, this kind of is different than what I've been learning in DBT." So, I don't know. It's been interesting, like the DBT stuff. I just started doing it and it's like, I mean, I wish I would have known the mindful stuff a long time ago. Just these different things like recognizing your emotions. Why is my chest feeling like this? Or I'm getting agitated? Like, why am I getting agitated? So these different things too. So awesome. What is one tip you can share to help the listeners be more inclusive today? Just something anybody can start doing today to be more inclusive.
Recognizing that your point of view is not the only point of view. And a lot of times, when I default to my point of view, which is barking orders and move faster, my children always stop and move slower. So that's never worked for me, by the way. Um, that I'll give a different example. When you are in an elder care situation, I'm one of those people that likes to jam as much possible into one day and see how fast I can get things done. When you are in a caregiving situation with someone who is older and in decline and needing of your care, they don't move fast. Doesn't even matter if you can move fast. They don't move fast. So the faster you want that interaction to be, and if you go in with the intent of this is going to take 10 minutes, you should go in with the intent of this is going to take an hour. And if I get out in 45 minutes, that would be great. Whenever I think that's going to take 10 minutes and it takes 45 minutes, then I'm more impatient, at least internally. I'm getting better at hiding it externally. And then what's the point? I mean, if you're in a caregiving situation with a human and you're helping them care for something that they can't care for themselves, so it's not even optional that you can't do it, they're not a task to be done. It's not something to check off your list. This is a relationship that you have been given the privilege of being the leader in, and so lead. Come into that relationship, match the energy of the person that you're with, provide not only the task to be done, but the care and the relationship during that time, and then move faster as soon as you move out of whatever that caregiving situation is. I find that if I have more patience and if I have more time, then I'm a better human when I'm helping someone else.
Yeah, that's a great tip and one I've more recently tried to do better with my daughter too, because yeah, her and concept of time is not the same as mine. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like, yep, we're just gonna do it this speed and like, okay, yep.
Yep.
And I had another guest where she talked about like the caregiving piece. Like she's the one, that somebody's providing care to her, and she's like, well, like you're providing care to me. Like, well, should be able to tell you like how I want my face washed, or instruct how my care is given to me. I'm like, oh, that's also a good point. Like,
Yeah.
don't really ask me daughter, like, is it okay if I wash your face like this, or do you want it done differently, or you tell me how you want it done. I'm just providing it to you, and I'm doing it how I think it should be done, but maybe that's not how you want me to. So,
Yeah, that's great. I needed to hear that too. Thank you
yeah,
for
yeah,
sharing that with me.
for sure. If there's one thing you hope listeners take away from your story, what would it be?
That you must care for yourself so that you can care for others. I mean, we do focus on others a lot, and there is a lot that we can do to be better at the care that we provide for others. But also think about yourself that way. Like, how do you want to wash your own face? How do you want to care for yourself? And that doesn't mean that you become selfish. It just means that your care is also important.
Yeah, I love that. Where's the best place for everybody to connect with you?
So my website is organized365.com. My podcast is also Organized365, and I'm most active on Instagram, Organized365.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You ready for the last question?
I am.
Do you like Spam lunch meat? Yes or no?
Never had it.
Never had it.
I've never had. I know. Should I go get it right now?
If you want to, yeah. But I asked that question since I live near Austin, Minnesota, where they make Spam and where the Spam
Mhm.
Museum is located. So I've been asking everybody that to see what the answers are. It's usually a fast yes, a fast no, or I haven't eaten it. That's like the three
Yeah.
options.
Yeah. What's the over/under on the yes/no? Gotta keep
Let
better
me
data
see.
on this. We need to
Well,
know.
as of right now, the yeses are 86, the nos are 110. So it's
Wow, it's
not.
pretty close.
It's pretty close. Not super,
Yeah.
lopsided, but it's
Yeah.
pretty close.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm pretty sure I would like it. Like, I like hot dogs. I like bologna. So would I
Yeah.
like Spam? Yeah, I'm pretty
It's
sure that,
basic.
yeah, if you gave it to me, I'd be like, that tastes good.
I'm pretty sure all the same stuff's in each one of those you just
I
mentioned.
think so.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
To those listening, thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. It is truly an honor. Please join the podcast newsletter by clicking on the link in the episode description to keep up with the latest episodes. Together, we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.